Devilman, one of Shonen's darkest and most violent protagonists, once stood at the height of Japanese pop culture, influencing some of the most renowned mangaka and the stories that they would one day create. If you need proof of this, look no further than the Eva designs from Neon Genesis Evangelion, or how Hideaki Anno would constantly draw from the works of Go Nagai and his most popular character designs. Also, a quick shout out to the homie Instrumentality1 for creating a random thread like 11 years ago which had a translation of this interview. Anyway, not only was Go Nagai inspiring other properties with Devilman, but he was also going as far as creating a foundation for new genres while still staying true to the core message of acceptance of yourself, but also of change, whether it's love, gender, sexuality, and even the nature of war in of itself. Devilman is also littered with things Go Nagai learned over the course of his life, such as having solidarity in one's values, but most importantly, yourself. In essence, Devilman stands as Nagai's testament to himself and all of the things he had learned before even beginning to work on it. Very early on in his career, perhaps even before it really began, Go Nagai had a profound understanding of what he had envisioned for himself and the work that he'd one day use to shake the foundation of Shonen. Stemming from the untimely passing of his father, Nagai was deeply inspired by the works of Gustave Doré and his work on the Japanese edition of Divine Comedy, which, if you're even vaguely familiar with the works of my boy Go, he would frequently reference at a moment's notice. Not only was he deeply inspired by the stories of old, but at one point his older brother Yasutaka Nagai gave Go a copy of Osamu Tezuka's Lost World, a manga in which I believe inspired Go Nagai's signature style of storytelling. Years after my boy graduated high school, he came down with a serious case of the BGs. If you don't know what the BGs are, well, you never had to pull out the emergency bottle of Pepto-Bismol. This particular case of diarrhea was life-threatening and resulted in Go realizing the fragility of his own life. This scared him. So he decided that before he died, he would leave a relic of his existence in the form of a beloved childhood hobby, manga. Go fell so deeply into this hobby and the idea of leaving a piece of himself that he dropped out of college to create his legacy. I don't think Go or Yasutaka knew how exactly these actions would shape their lives and the lives of many others, but mostly I'm glad that Go decided to stick with it, because shortly after shopping his manga around, he realized that not a single publication house that he had been to was interested in he or his big bro's debut manga. This partially could have been due to his mother convincing the publishing houses to not accept their work. The prototype was this dope science fiction / ninja manga that actually became the basis for another Nagai work called Kuro no Shishi, which caught the attention of Ishinomori, the bad boy creator of Kamen Rider and Cyborg 009, who also went on to inspire the creation of the freaking Power Rangers, bro. This is the beginning of Go Nagai's polarizing career and where the seeds of Devilman were first born. Before we get into the actual topic of the video, I think it's important that we understand exactly why Go Nagai was so polarizing as an author at the time, despite being extremely popular. It all starts with a little manga called Horenchi Gakuen. You see, long before the homie Go was recognized for his horrifying depictions of demons, hell, and hermaphroditic sad boys, he was known for pushing the envelope and actively influencing the social norms in the East with Horenchi Gakuen. Bro, this manga not only forced Go into stardom, but created a massive following due to its eroticism targeting younger individuals. But with the fame came a price. For as popular as Horenchi Gakuen was, it turned Go into public enemy number one. The young adults and kids loved him, but everyone else essentially wanted him and his works gone. So they essentially tried canceling him. Now, I can't say for certain whether I agree with this, as the manga showcased nude scenes and raunchy humor such as teachers sneaking peeks at female students was targeted towards a younger audience. However, the various Japanese PTAs did have something to say, as did Go's ever-expanding fanbase, which led him to do the unthinkable at the time. The dude challenged Japanese society. The ending of Horenchi Gakuen's initial publication is regarded as one of his most infamous because the gag manga took a sudden genre shift from a playful erotic romp aimed at a younger audience to a story of death, murder, and war stemming from the real-life hypocrisy Go Nagai was facing. In fact, the manga ends with all of the characters you've grown to love mostly being teachers and students who simply wanted to express themselves and their freedoms being brutally murdered by the PTA and other parental forces. This stands out to me as the incident that set the stage for many of Go's political and often societal musings that are prevalent in his work. Sure, you could chalk Horenchi Gakuen up to being an erotic gag manga that tries to be deep right at the end, but when you look at the context in which it was created and ended, there's a message, and a powerful one at that. The death of human expression is in turn the death of society. It is the death of our youth and the people who gave them knowledge of their world. That is the message that Go Nagai chose to express with his most famous work at the time, despite how it could have impacted his career. That, well, it takes guts. With Horenchi Gakuen cementing Go's ability to pose societal and political questions within his own works, it wasn't until we got Demon Lord Dante, the story of Ryo Utsugi's journey through hell, that we begin to see that he can be horrifying in his depictions of religious themes and also how he wanted to challenge the ideas of how God and the devil were depicted. With these works and numerous life-changing situations littering Go Nagai's explosive career and personal life, we finally get the foundation of what I believe to be his greatest and most prolific work, Devilman. First written on June 11, 1971, Devilman follows the horrific story of Akira Fudo, a very neat teenager living with family friends, the Makimuras, as his family is working in the US. Not gonna lie, I would have hated this. Like, not even one of y'all could have stayed to watch me in our house. Anyway, after meeting with his longtime homie Ryo Asuka, Akira learns of the potential existence of demons and their slow assimilation into modern society. Ryo discusses how the demons have been hibernating in subterranean ice shelves for centuries, and that the only way to stop them from claiming the world that used to belong to them is to use the power of the demons against them. Intrigued as any teenager would be, Akira decides to go and observe the odd ritual that Ryo has organized under his own home. Don't ask, it was the 70s, common sense storytelling practically didn't exist back then. The ritual taking place is known as the Black Sabbath, and the ritual entails all sorts of drug-induced debauchery. I don't really know what they were expecting to happen at something called the Black Sabbath, but Akira ends up getting possessed by the greatest demon warrior, Amon, before fighting his way out of the Black Sabbath with Ryo in tow, and also mysteriously pleased with the outcome. From here, the manga takes a pseudo monster of the week sort of tone, while still permitting Go Nagai to lace in bits of lore and narrative into the manga. We learn of Cyrene and Kaim, the former of which was the demon Amon's lover and best friend in the millennia preceding the story. So was Kaim, minus the lover thing. They were basically just friends, and as I continue reading this, I'm just wondering to myself, why did I word the script this way? Anyway, proceeding with a very intense fight where Akira, now dubbed as Devilman, learns that not all demons are mindless monsters. In fact, some are even capable of feeling affection and despair at their perceived loss of someone that they once loved. This is when I really got roped into the story of OG Devilman. Go Nagai does this interesting thing with his characters in which you still don't necessarily understand the full scope of their relationships, but Nagai draws this distinctly blurry line between the love of someone for who they are in your heart and the sheer hatred for who they're becoming without you. Not only does Cyrene lash out because Devilman has no concept of who she is or what their prior relationship was, but because he no longer exists in this place that is recognizable by her, let alone the other demons that he's interacted with up to this point. This leads to Cyrene snapping. She merges with Kaim and decides that if she can't have Amon as she once could, she'd kill him and look beautiful doing so, further cementing her perception of Amon in her mind and heart and allowing the inferior version to perish. This arc is probably my favorite arc in the entire manga. Up to now, you've been told that demons can merge in order to become more powerful, demons were the first intelligent beings to take claim over the earth, and it's assumed that demons are just the heartless monsters that we expect them to be. And this is all based on a few interactions we've had up until this point. The Cyrene arc challenges all of those perceptions and either elaborates on them or tells us something completely different and as questionable as Demon Sky Sex in an arc so riveting as this one. Through the Go Nagai-ness of this arc, we begin to see depth both in terms of narrative and the characters involved. This takes us to our next major showdown a few chapters later. Look guys, I've been unintentionally keeping it really clean in my last few scripts, no cursing, very light humor, but this man Jinmen, bro, he is such a hoe even by demon standards. He's like if you merge Cell with this fool from Naruto who makes the Play-Doh explode. What was his name? I can't remember his name right now. except not nearly as cool as either of them. Essentially, he and Devilman end up fighting, but throughout the course of the manga, you find out he's been eating people close to Akira, and their souls are now bound to his shell in the form of talking faces. The entire fight is pretty tense as Devilman is a kind-hearted and good-natured person, but still knowing he's directly destroying the people who have placed their trust in him, it's clearly a harrowing situation to be in, and I think after this fight, he ultimately never looks at evil demons with the same mercy or compassion that he had before. Cyrene taught us that demons can be deeper than surface level, and even when they're bad, it's not always for the reasons you think. Jinmin, on the other hand, was just a whack-ass wannabe Ninja Turtle that couldn't make the cut. That said, at least he's not a monkey though, and I hate monkeys. With a few major demons taken down, Akira is getting in the groove of his demon hunting escapades. He's got his homie Rio looking out for him, a cute yet very annoying girl that literally sleeps in the room next door, and aside from his internal fear of losing himself, he's doing aight. That is until a massive force of demons being led by the great demon Xenon, Satan's right-hand man, individuals I guess. Bro, this dude has 3 heads and a mouth for a chest, so what am I supposed to say? Anyway, Xenon and his slew of demon homies invade Tokyo, in the process alerting the wider populace to the existence of demons. Akira realizes at this point that he can't be the only Devilman, and decides that the best course of action would be to locate others like himself and show the world that not everyone who becomes a demon is bad, just so long as they keep their human spirit. I'm not gonna lie, my boy was spitting, and I almost wish there would have been an alternative story where we get a closer examination of the various Devilmen, because not long after that, Rio takes to live television in order to expose Akira as a Devilman. Not only that, he denounces the Devilmen as evil beings that hide in the form of your neighbors, siblings, parents, and really anyone else you would potentially come into contact with, causing mass hysteria and fear to run rampant, and also resulting in the world being forced into a state of chaos, making it even easier for the demons to return as Xenon promised. This is the part of the story where everything gets turned on its head. After exploring his mansion, Rio finds evidence of who he truly is, and with the help of a demon named Psycho Jenny, Rio learns of his feud with God and how he and the rest of the demons had once been sealed. Psycho Jenny, aka Little Bobblehead, presents Rio with his plan to have his memories replaced until it was time to wage war on God, and finally reveal to him that he is Satan. Little Bobblehead. Even without realizing his true identity, Rio is subconsciously pulling the strings. Meanwhile, the world has kind of gone to hell, seriously. Devilmen are being hunted, innocent people are being murdered in the streets, and fear becomes king in this new violent world. Akira is doing his best to save Devilman and also cope with the fact that the people who have grown to trust him no longer do. But somehow he's still able to love them and carry on despite their initial distrust. That is until the Makimuras are targeted. One by one, they all meet the same fate, and after the death of Miki, the last Makimura, Akira is devastated, and it was at this time that we both came to the same realization. Humans are the real demons. It was through fear and the slight push that humanity fell, and any semblance of order was lost in the tides of chaos. But finally seeing the lengths to which humanity would go to allay their fears, it was extremely shocking, because as optimistic as I am about life and humanity, I think realistically what Go Nagai presented isn't too far off. Many people live their lives out of fear rather than joy, and how exactly they could be working to make the world a better place on the individual level. I work a dead-end job because I'm afraid the bills won't get paid, or I won't stop and help that person in need. What if their goal is to hurt me? Neither of these would be an invalid response, and I'm not expressing that you shouldn't be responsible when it comes to your life and your own well-being. However, my main point stands, and it becomes more apparent to me after watching and reading the saga of the Devilman, that as powerful as fear can be at times, operating on passion and love, as cheesy as that sounds, keeps us in touch with our humanity. To go a bit off script, I believe that the attractive aspect of being a child that we constantly reminisce over is actually the passion for life and discovery that is quickly stifled as we progress through our adolescence and into adulthood. We're conditioned to fear creating a poor life by following our passions, and the result is the world that we live in currently, for better or worse. Devilman taught me to cherish the people that I truly love, who support me and push me to do better, and to also cherish my humanity, all of it. It's not like I'm going to become a man-eating demon or anything, but rather I find that living my life for the sake of self-discovery and curiosity has brought me back from the edge more times than I can count. Miki's death marks within Devilman the death of his motivation and the one innocent person, well, innocent is relative, but the one good person that Akira had in his life. So, my boy turned Super Saiyan, flies over to Rio, and tests his gangster. After all, he is the one who sets this whole situation in motion. Shortly after meeting Satan, Akira realizes the truth about his homie, and his mission for revenge is solidified. Now, when I say that my boy Akira was ready to slide on this fool Rio, bro. Satan calls his legions of demons led by Xenon, Akira calls forth his Devilman turned humans, and both forces collide in this kaleidoscope of body parts and viscera. One minute the demons have the advantage, the next minute it's the Devilman, and this battle rages for years, ravaging the landscape and the last vile remnants of humanity until the Devilmen are the last humans left. Earth is all but destroyed, and both forces are on their last legs. And as Devilman goes in for the final triumphant swing, he stops, looks at his friend Rio one last time, falls from the sky, realizing that he has lost this battle for humanity, and sheds a single tear for the people he could never save, the people that gave their lives for his sake, and finally, for his friend Rio, whom he loved until the end. Devilman, no, Akira Fudo dies, and as Rio lays next to his friend's dismembered body, holding him tightly and weeping despite defeating the Devilman, God's angels descend upon the crimson, blood-stained earth to destroy Satan, and the story of Devilman comes to an end. Man, I love this story so much. In my most recent bout of anxiety-induced distancing, I watched Devilman Crybaby only to quickly find the manga and read through it in its entirety. The message that Go Nagai was pushing with his amazing story was received, and I couldn't help but to spend weeks pondering the nature of friendship, why relationships are important, and what makes us good, and it was through those themes that I decided to finally become my own hero, but also a pillar for the people around me to aspire to and be supported by. And through that simple action, I gained more purpose than I've ever had in my entire life. If Berserk saved me, then Devilman made me a better person. There's so much more to the story of Devilman for us to unpack, but briefly, I just need to pour my heart out, you know? I feel like this is where I would normally end my video, but alas, the story of Devilman is all but finished. We haven't even begun to unpack the hilarity and sex-fueled story that is Devilman Lady. See what I did there? Alright guys, we're about to hop into Devilman Lady. Grab your toothbrushes, grab your popcorn. I don't know why you would need a toothbrush, but I'm gonna stop talking, let's get into this.